post-Alliance Conquest and Ultimate Conquest seasons, we've seen a strategy be popularized across a lot of the most coordinated alliances called swapping. This was played with in the previous season, but now with the defender limit changes with this most recent season, it's skyrocketed in effectiveness and therefore popularity. The idea behind it is that if you can put your best rally leaders on the highest point locations consistently, it will be much harder to knock them out, and you can then just ensure all the points for yourself by keeping them inside. In this match specifically, Mad vs CTP, Diver on Mad's side ends up being swapped onto CTP's port, for example, and CTP don't even try to rally it because they just know his stats and rally size are too strong for them to knock out, as you'd need to win multiple rallies in a row against him to get him out. But there are very few accounts in the game who can actually win a rally against him, let alone in one alliance. So what he's done is that there are designated racers and designated slow marchers. For the racers, their job is to win the race, obviously, and then disband the location when there's 1 to 2 seconds left on the rally leader's slow march, so that they can just walk into an empty location and the rest of their alliance can fill them with reinforcements which can preemptively be sent to the racer as he holds it. You'll want the racers to understand what's going on with this strategy so that they can think on their feet and improvise if necessary if anything goes wrong. And they'll need to both listen to shot calling and be able to follow the timings in their own head in all likelihood. You want them to be able to watch the slow march and count in their own heads, like 5, 4, 3, 2, disband. It will get called in voice, but you'll want them to follow that themselves, because if you just blind react to that being shouted at you, you might react too slow, you might panic. You need to be following it step by step yourself. And obviously you'll want them to be your fastest players with 75% march speed up stocked up. Then the slow marchers, they obviously need to be the strongest rally leads in your alliance, the accounts you want holding buildings, the accounts you're confident can hold off and win multiple rallies back to back so that you prevent people from getting sent back. You always want to send 2 people at least per location, I think, because if you just send one, a few things can go wrong. They can get the wolf head when sending or just any other type of bug. And on Casterly specifically, where the distance is more neutral, you can often get in a point where your first slow marcher's march time isn't slow enough, and if you are forced to swap it onto them, the opposing alliance can have a slow marcher themselves walking to the location. Because the strategy is so popular, obviously everyone's doing it. You need to account for that. And if you swap it whilst the opposing alliance also has a slow marcher walking towards it, you will lose that location 100% of the time if that person doesn't mess up or react too slowly, because there's a delay in the reinforcements filling the new banner up and a slight delay in the switch of holder. Plus when they take it, the person that takes it doesn't actually have any troops in there, it will be at 0 troops. Their stats will be on the building, but their own march that they take it with will just walk back. It isn't actually a reinforcement march, obviously. It just wins the building from the NPCs. So if you speed in at that point when there's 0 reinforcements, or any point between that swap until they get 5, 6, 7 reinforcement marches in, you will get it and you'll gain the bubble, which obviously the swapping side won't get. They'll lose that as soon as it's disbanded. It requires a lot of focused attention in terms of communication, so it's best done for only one building at most per wave of locations opening, I think. In this match here, CTP do it with the enemy outpost and Mad do it with the mother on these first waves, and then they do it on both enemy ports when they open, and both would do it on Casterly as well, obviously. It works best on locations further away from your hive, because you want the other alliance's attacking marches to time out and not be marching towards the location by the time you make the swap. Because if you manage that, you gain such an initiative in terms of speed, because your reinforcers can preemptively send reinforcements but not speed them up, And when the building gets disbanded, these marches aren't sent back, they'll just keep marching. And when the new rally leader swaps in, they can then speed their troops into their stats. This is practically impossible to stop if done properly as the swapping side, if it's done on an enemy port for example, because you gain such a time advantage by not having to do as many clicks. The defending alliance will somehow have to react to the bubble falling, click attack, click their preset, click confirm, scroll to the speed up button, and then spam march speed ups to 0 seconds, and somehow hope they can do those 6 or 7 clicks faster than 2 or 3 of the 90 plus members on the other side just have to click their march speed ups when told in voice, speed reinforcements in now. Castle swapping can be a little awkward to manage because it's obviously equal distance away from both hives, and you really don't want to swap when there's a slower march still marching on the other side. For Castle slow marching, you want to have as high march times as possible, which means you want the slowest troop types, which will be only infantry or spearmen, and you'll also want to be at the back of your hive, just so that you have the longest time to travel. This can be awkward for rally timings and whatnot outside of the rushing phase, but it's a necessary evil, because if you mess up a swap on Castle and give it up, it's effectively a 600 points per minute swing, and if you're losing it to an opposing slow march, that's going to be one of their best banners, who will very likely be incredibly difficult for you to knock out. We've seen this season, both in the regular season and now in the playoffs, that the alliances who seem to be best at this, and maybe the best set up for it, have overperformed quite significantly over what you would initially expect. So with BDR, for example, they're very good at this, but their alliance is also perfectly assembled to suit it, with the 3 huge whale accounts that you can ideally stick on the 2 ports and Castle, and then a lot of really competent and fast players around them to enable those accounts getting maximum value. And there it is, that is the swapping meta in AC explained. Now if you haven't been doing this already in your alliances, maybe you can add it to your game the next time AC comes around.